Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good to see you in the room on today and ready to get into our devotional time together. As always, I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to connect with you all. I truly believe that we are better together. I truly believe that we connect with God and connect with one another in very meaningful ways. So, good morning to everybody who's coming in the room, everybody who's already throwing up love to one another and hugging another queen tight. And I invite you to go ahead and do that. Get under somebody else's name and just tell them, good morning. I'm glad that you made it. Glad that you're here. Um, we're going to get ready to go ahead and do some meaningful work on this morning on day number 21 with Queen Margaret, Compartmentalized Chaos. I'm going to talk a bit about that. I was actually attempting to locate and meant to do that sooner. One of our slides from the cohort session that we had just Monday evening as we talked about identifying our landmines. Jen, you were a part of that cohort session, so you perhaps remember that. Just a meaningful something that we were able to explore, but I'll get back to that and get on over here and get focused with you all. Thought it may be helpful. So here goes. Let's turn to day number 21 and get ready to maximize our time understanding and talking through compartmentalized chaos. I'll start right here with the story that I ended with on yesterday, where I was sharing that in going to take my national exam, in that test, that being overwhelmed is the emotion that seeks to try to just come at me, just throw a cheap shot, a cheap blow, just out of the blue. That's what it attempts to do. And for me, that shows up sometimes with an emotional reaction where my eyes begin to water, where even in my feelings, the emotions of it, I can feel that. Physically, it may be knots in my stomach or a bit of anxiety. And I often have to talk myself through it and say, just breathe, right? So, my invitation to you all as we were ending the session on last night was to become very clear, to identify the emotion that attempts to come in and sucker punch you or knock the wind out of you, that may just show up in some of your best moments. It's just there. It's just there. That was the question. So whether you were here on yesterday or you're joining us for the first time, I'm going to give everybody a moment to just gather your thoughts about that. What is that emotion that comes to just knock the wind out of you, whether it's in a low moment or a high moment? And we're going to talk about that in layered conversations with our dear Queen Margaret on today. In the meantime, I want to welcome everybody to the community, where I truly believe, as I said earlier, that we are here being better together. Man, we're over here being better together. So whether you're joining us consistently or you're joining us for the first time, I invite you to do the check-in on the roll call. We're getting a day closer to prayer, which is one of my favorite times that we gather during the week, where we get to verbally call your names out and speak your prayer requests before the Lord. So today, if you will, just check in right there under the videos. Like, you really have to go up top and check in under the video with either a heart or a love button, and just let us know that you're here, so that when we go back and we're praying for each person, we see your names quickly. And then you'll jog with me to page number 94, Compartmentalized Chaos. Already got my good notes ready, and we're going to get ready to answer that question. We get ready to invite you into the comments. So after you get through checking in, if you'll go ahead and jump into the comments, what is the emotion that attempts to just come after you, that attempts to just take the wind out of you? What emotions are those for you all? You're welcome to jump into the comments. I'm verbally saying mine. My emotion is feeling overwhelmed. That's what comes for me. I'll begin to see what we're saying. Oh, y'all are still greeting. Good morning to everybody. Good morning. Jump in here with me and let's begin to do the work. What's the emotion that just seems to come after you, that just seems to come for you, just without fairness? Jennifer, you've already got yours in here. And let's see what else is coming. I see somebody else saying theirs too. So Jen, you're saying intimidation, irritation, and empathy. And your body physically responds to both emotions and you can't seem to control that irritation. I see. Thank you, Jen. I see someone else adding fear. Fear is yours. Let's see what else we have. Panic. Man, I'll talk to you a little bit about panic. Uncertainty. Yeah, I can deal with that one as well. Thank you, Jen. I see you moving us through them. Feeling irritated, feeling rejected. Vanessa, you're saying you're right there with me, feeling overwhelmed. Thank y'all for your transparency and your honesty. I see more fear. I see Gladys saying fear. Thank you all for jumping in. Man, despair, despair. I see feeling overwhelmed again with you, Swan. Yes. Yes, thank you all for jumping into the conversation quickly there. Frustration, rejection, uncertainty, anxiety, all of those. So we can see all of those emotions. And if you see a sister putting something that you know I can identify with that, you can get under theirs and just give them like a heart or a high five saying, "Me too, sis," because we love to let everybody know you're not in this by yourself. So real quick, and then we'll go back to the lesson because I want to acknowledge just the panic one because I've dealt with just a beloved person with panic, and she would literally wake up just in a panic, wasn't even really sure of where that panic feeling was coming from, meaning there was not something that had happened that was naturally just a trigger, but she would wake up with intense feelings of panic. She would be up during the night and she said she would be brushing her teeth so until her gum literally would freeze. Jen, you can let me know if y'all can still hear me. I'm gonna keep on teaching for this little story and then I'll probably circle out and come back in so that you can see me. um, you can hear me, Jen?
I can hear you, but
Very
yes, you're
good.
frozen.
I'm gonna finish the story first. So my beloved person would do that. Thank you for the crowd. Y'all know what we do. We're not gonna be moved. We're gonna keep on going. Then I'm gonna come out. We're gonna put this out into the atmosphere real quick. And so she would be struggling with panic. She would talk about brushing her teeth. And she would brush her teeth so until her gums would bleed. And then there would be other times when she would be driving on the highway and she would feel powerless to even finish the trip, or she would go into her work environment and she would be about to clock in and could barely just even run her identity card through the check-in space. Just panic, like panic would literally feel like it had a physical grasp on her. And some of you may be able to identify with that. So I want to acknowledge that panic piece can be very real, that it is so much more than just this faint feeling. I have not personally felt firsthand, dealt with it to that magnitude within my own body and within my own mindset. But for a beloved loved one, yes, walking her through that over and over and over again, panic. And it was nothing but the grace of God and scriptures and the word.
Good morning, ladies. I'm going to pick up where Dr. Gena left off since it looks like she was dropped from the stream. But I just want to, as I'm reading these answers this morning, I just want to say how grateful I am to have the opportunity to understand myself better through doing this work. I can honestly say that I never would have done this on my own. I never would have sat with these uncomfortable feelings on my own. I never would have pushed through, just the difficulty of understanding these different triggers and these different pain points in our life. So I'm just so grateful that I'm able to do this in a safe space and that I have someone guiding me through it so that I can understand myself better and be more compassionate about myself. And so I just wanted to share that because this is therapy. I mean, this is literally therapy in my opinion, and I am ultimately grateful for it. It's such a gift to have, and our mental health and our well-being is something, while we're responsible for it, it's so good to have a loving community surrounding us while we deal with our thoughts and our deep feelings and the pain in our life and the scars and soul holes. It's so good that we're able to do this and we don't have to do it by ourselves, that we have each other and we have a loving person who is filled with Christ that is guiding us through all of it, and every day faithfully in spite of everything she has going on. It's just, I just don't take it for granted, and I just want to tell God thank you for placing this community in our path, that we have a safe space and a friendship with one another and a sisterhood. So I appreciate the Lord for being in the details of our life and giving us exactly what we need when we need it, and allowing us to catch a break early in the morning by focusing on him, and by putting ourselves first by spending time with the Lord early in the morning. That's something that also, if I didn't have someone that encouraged me to do it every single day, I wouldn't be as faithful as I am, honestly. But I have so much to gain by coming here. Peace and harmony and community, and there's just so much to gain, and I see that she has joined us. So I'm going to stop right there. Welcome back. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you. I appreciate the welcome. I appreciate it, honey. I don't know what that's about, Jen. You know, that never happens when we're talking backstage. We can be on here for a long time and it doesn't happen. So oftentimes I just associate that with the come against the lesson. But nevertheless, so with this whole panic thing, I really want to hold space for that because I really get that there's a depth to that panic piece that the person who experiences panic can't really articulate. It's almost like you have to live it and be up close with the person who is living it to really understand how physically and visibly nothing can appear to be wrong, but the experience for that person is very real. So I acknowledge that for you today. And then any other emotion that we've named previously, let's go ahead and go to our book on page number 94, where it says today's affirmation. I invite you to really receive it into your spirit on today. It says today's affirmation: peaceful moments, peace breaks, peaceful thoughts, peaceful space, and peaceful company are mine all throughout the day as I intentionally erect boundaries of peace in my own life. As I intentionally erect boundaries of peace in my own life. Now, I want us to be clear, and we say this often, but I keep reminding us that this is not about fixing other people. This is not the moment where we begin to smile inside because we got a list of folk we're about to get right and get boundaries around. This is about establishing boundaries in our own lives, even as it relates to ourselves. So if I was to apply that just as it relates to the test on yesterday, I know that the propensity and sometimes the tendency to feel overwhelmed can just run rampant in my life. I have to choose to put boundaries in place, even when it comes to my own emotions, so that they don't just take over me. I've begun to confess that my emotions do not have me. I have emotions. And somebody may need to receive that for yourself on today. As we're talking about boundaries, it's not boundaries as are solely boundaries as it relates to what someone else is allowed to do in our lives. It's even boundaries when it comes to our own actions, our own behaviors, our own reactions within our own lives. If you're like me, you know I can work me up. I can think about something long enough. I can rehearse it in my mind long enough. I can get work, honey. And I'm not even interacting with an individual. It's just me with me. And so that boundary that I have to put in place for my own self, because I know that those emotions can become overwhelming, whether that's sadness or whether that's frustration or whether that's anger. I have to put boundaries in place as it relates to Gena so that Gena can maintain peace in Gena's life. Does that make sense? Are you following me? So again, as we're talking about this, when it says, and I intentionally erect boundaries of peace in my own life, right? I understand that a piece of that boundary erection could be associated with others, but we're going to start with ourselves first. We're going to go ahead and lean in and we're going to deal with ourselves first, right? So we all listed different emotions that we know are the pieces that come to kind of overwhelm us, to make us feel as if, we can't go forward, or to paralyze us. And we have to be very clear about that. So here's the thing: being able to identify that is a first step. So many times we've been taught to push things down, to ignore them, not talk about them, and then y'all know sometimes it's, and don't declare, don't put that into the atmosphere. And we've taken so many of those things out of context that we are no longer allowing ourselves to be well. In the spirit of not declaring, we skip the part about how we overcome by the word of our testimony, right? We skip the part about being able to know that we really can come before our good daddy God in the spirit of transparency and truth. And we can really articulate to him and ask for his help in the very real areas of our lives. There is a difference, which is what I love to teach, between declaring a state of being over our lives and literally describing what we are facing and going through, whether with the trusted person who's a source of help and strength, or even just describing and talking about it to our good daddy God. Lean in if you understand what I'm saying. We've become so cautious about wanting to make sure that we don't speak something into existence, that we no longer use our good sense to describe what already exists. There is a difference between declaring and futuristically with our words, placing certain things in our life, versus being in denial and being dismissive and not acknowledging or saying certain things because we're too afraid that if we speak it, what? It's already here. And I need us to be clear about these different things, because this is the way that we can begin to move and be pragmatic and have tangible tips on how to really do the work in our own lives. So with clarity, God does not have any problem with you being able to clearly identify what you are facing. God does not have any issue with you being able to clearly articulate and describe to someone else what you are navigating or going through. And there is power in being able to say, I understand that being overwhelmed is a thing with me. And I have to be cognizant of that so that I can navigate and move with wisdom accordingly. So for each of you who listed something, before the enemy takes that out of context, when we're not in this Bible study, and began to try to twist your thoughts about it as if somehow because you acknowledge it, now you've declared it, we come against that, we silence that, we pull down every stronghold, every pattern and way of being that comes to exalt itself against God. God is not overwhelmed by the areas where we need help. In fact, he says, in our weakness, that's where he's strong. All right, everybody got it? So be clear. So I say all of that to say, so you're able to acknowledge to yourself, this is the space where I know, whether it's panic that some people said, whether it's fear, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's rejection, whether it's just waves of different types of emotion that comes. Here's another point of clarity that I am addressing. And I see you saying you're understanding. Thank you for the clarity. Absolutely. So here's that clarity point in a bite-sized piece so that y'all can keep that in your notes. There is a difference between declarations and descriptions. We're cautious about declarations, because declarations is this sense of I am speaking into existence things that I don't even want to see in my future, or I do want to see. Declarations is about intentionally using our words to create that, right? A description is I'm hungry. I'm currently hungry. Unless I say that to Teresa, Teresa does not know to offer me food. I am not declaring starvation over my life for the rest of my life. I am simply describing to you what I am facing so that I can get some help. Y'all got it? That's about as simple as I can put it. When I say I'm hungry, I am not declaring starvation over my life. I'm describing to you the current status of my stomach so that you will know to offer me a salad or a piece of pizza or a hamburger. But you don't know that if I'm so busy hiding what's going on the inside of me, you don't know that and you're not able to assist. There is a meme that I love that says, so many of us cannot be healed because we were too busy pretending that we were already well. Y'all get it? Very good. There's a difference. I see you saying it. There is a difference in declaration versus describing. Absolutely. So with that being said, then we're going to go right back. Everybody, as we're doing the work, when you're clear about that emotion that tries to come your way, when you know that, that is where that's the starting place. When you're here, that's what that mall map used to say when I would go, you're here. That being able to identify where you are is what helps you plot out your next steps so that you don't have to be in cycles of certain behaviors, reactions, emotional spaces. We do not have to land there. It does not have to be our portion. And even if it is something that we have dealt with for a long time, we don't have to continue to deal with it at the same levels of degrees. Over time, with practice and with being cognizant of it, we can begin. Y'all see how my hand is going down? We can begin to take that stuff. We can take those levels lower and lower and lower by just being present to it and doing the necessary work. So then let's go. Our scripture for today, as we move towards theme 2023, and we continue to say God wants to see us well and whole. Here's what we got. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. God sees me as peaceful, so I see me as peaceful. Y'all, in this day in which we live, when so many things are coming to be a distraction and to disturb our peace, we really got to receive that by faith. So y'all go ahead and do that affirmation based on God's word with me. God sees me as peaceful, so I see me as peaceful. Come on, everybody. God sees me as peaceful, so I see me as peaceful. These bills don't have to see me as peaceful. Some of these relationships don't have to see me as peaceful. Some of these issues in our professions don't have to see us as peaceful, but God sees us as peaceful, so we see ourselves as peaceful. God sees us as having peace, y'all. And I'm now at a stage in life where I used to hear a long time ago, peace is priceless. But how many of us can really co-sign on that right now? We can say peace is priceless. Like that's the thing in our life that it's not for sale. It's not negotiable. We're no longer accepting things that come to disturb. Hey, Kennedy, we're no longer accepting things that come to disturb our peace, things that intentionally plot against our peace. Somebody say that's not welcome here. Those people are those issues, are those spiritual hosts of wickedness that literally puts our name on the roll, and they plot and they're strategic about how to disturb our peace. We're saying we're no longer accepting that. We're not playing about it. We don't even get close and engage in things that come to disturb our peace. And is there anybody else like me who says, because I got enough real stuff going on to not play patty cake with drama that comes just to disturb my peace? I got enough real stuff on my prayer list, enough real dreams and visions that needs my real energy and effort. I got enough real folk who are in my life that have situations and real prayer needs. So now I'm not signing up for stuff that just comes to take a cheap shot at my peace. Anybody in agreement on this morning? So God sees me as peaceful, so I see me as peaceful. I see y'all high-fiving and saying that's not welcome here. No, No, not welcome here at all. God sees me as peaceful. So let's go into our book and let's just tackle paragraph number 1. I think she gives us a whole mouthful to just tackle, and we'll see ourselves. Somebody actually named the same one that Queen Margaret deals with from France. So we'll just start right there. It says, traditionally for her day, via her father's arrangement, Queen Margaret became engaged to Prince Charles of France. Despite it being an arranged relationship, meaning she didn't pick it anyway. Anywho, she didn't pick it, right? Margaret developed a genuine affection for her fiance. He, though, on the other hand, renounced the agreement and married Margaret's stepmother. Of course, the unwedded bride was deeply hurt by Charles's action. She was left with feelings of rejection as well as enduring resentment towards him and his country. We're going to stop right there, because between those 3 emotions alone, that's enough for us to have a conversation for this last few minutes, where it indicates that she was deeply hurt, she had feelings of rejection, and she had resentment. Deeply hurt, feelings of rejection, enduring resentment, clearly able to identify feelings. That's why the whole speech earlier for us, clearly able to identify the emotions, the stuff that comes to knock the wind out of us, whether we remember the root of it or whether by now it's so ingrained in our something that it just shows up and we can't even particularly associate it with something. It's this part, y'all, where we're going to just land right there today. Being able to identify it. It says that she had feelings of rejection, was deeply hurt, and had resentment. Y'all hear that? Being able to clearly identify the emotions that come for you is critical, because that then is where we begin to do the work and plot the path that allows us to better safeguard ourselves. So I'll give you back where we started when I shared about the test and how being overwhelmed can be my theme. So I put intentional safeguards in my path on simple things. Like, let me just give you one simple example. I can pack a lot of things in my head to do stuff, whether it's professional, whether it's for the community, whether it's for school. A piece of maintaining my peace is getting that out of my head and onto a list. Literally, sometimes, often divided by the day that I'm going to address it, so that I don't feel like I'm carrying this mental suitcase in my head all the time that only fuels and aids and adds to a sense of being overwhelmed. So I literally will jot it down and have notes. And I have this one go-to place so that I don't have notes all over the place. So that I don't have notes over here in my calendar and then over here on a sheet of paper and then over there on a notepad, and it starts feeling chaotic to me. I have one designated space, and I take it out of my head and I put it there. And I'm training myself that once you take it out of your head and you put it there, stop thinking about it, especially if you've assigned that to your Thursday think through list. Then let it go and think through it on a Thursday. Where does a lot of that come from? Many of you know I'm part of an older sibling group, right? I'm the oldest daughter and second in a lineup in a family of 10. I am used to having to carry weight and be responsible and take care of stuff. And I also understood the weight of it not happening. Critical consequences would happen if I didn't do my part. That has partly conditioned me to always pack and be ready. And I've had to learn how to manage that so that it does not overwhelm me. We'll talk more about those steps. But for today, if you are able to simply identify where that identify the emotion, and perhaps begin to think through, where does that come from for you? Then we can begin to chart a path forward that helps you to begin to mitigate some of that in your life. Clearly, for Queen Margaret, we understand that her deep hurt, that her resentment, and that her feeling rejected was rooted in the fact that her father had made an arranged marriage with somebody that she didn't even choose, first of all, right? But then he opts to renounce her and renounce that agreement and go be with somebody else, and that somebody else was a family member, right? That somebody else was actually a step who replaced a beloved family member. She sees the root of where that stuff began in her life. So we have that takeaway today. I can identify the emotion, and I pretty much can tell you where it came from. I pretty much know where it came from. Again, being able to wrap our minds around it and wrap our words around it is not declaring it for eternity into our future. It is saying, I'm no longer looking away. I'm no longer sweeping under the rug. I'm no longer playing like it doesn't exist. I'm no longer not acknowledging it. I'm through with being scared. Like if I talk about it, I'm declaring something. I am going to get a handle on this so that I can walk into, by faith, everything that God has for my life. I want to see myself like God sees me. I want to move like God wants me to move. And I'm done. I'm done with not addressing the areas of my life that, when addressed and when healed, I can be exactly who He created me to be. That's our goal, y'all. No longer playing small about even being healed in Jesus' name. Y'all receive it on this morning? You understand where we're going? I know somebody told me it feels like group therapy. Y'all know I'm gonna be licensed. We do. We are. We're doing the work. This is called the work. All right. So with that being said, you guys, I'll go ahead and let you go. We'll be right back here in the morning, but do your homework. Be able to identify. And if you can, and you feel like being vulnerable enough, and you really want to get to the root of it, think about, now, where did that come from? Where did that come from? What's the root of that right there? All right. As always, I honor the greatness that's on the inside of you. I'll see you in the morning.